Well, today's project is going to be turning that pile of logs into firewood, and we're going to do it using that tractor and this firewood processor. This is a Blockbuster model B1. We're cleaning up after a pond that was just built this spring. So that pond is about 1.25 acres, and that was a heavily wooded valley that the construction guys came out with their heavy machinery, and they pulled all the logs out, all the trees. They pushed them over and pulled them up, root balls and all, and left them laying in, really well ordered, just in line all the way down through this field. So we, in fact, we got just a few roots left over here. You can see that line of roots. There's probably, I don't know, about 20 or 30 root left over there. We cut the roots off, we cut the tops up, and we took the tops out for little limb wood. You see that pile there? We've been hauling off some of it. We had piles, had 2 or 3 piles, in different sort of stations down the field here. So the limb wood got cut up, and the logs then were piled up. So we had this pile, we kind of worked on it just a little bit, but we had another larger pile over there, and you can see the piles of firewood that we made a few days ago. So the gentleman will be out here, supposed to be out here in just a few minutes. We'll get this machine fired up, and I'll show you guys how well it does. So this is the amount of wood that machine can create in 4 hours of runtime and 2.5 hours of runtime. We had it set to 18-inch lengths for that pile, and we had it set to 22-inch lengths for that pile. So we're able to produce, more firewood with longer lengths, a little quicker. These piles are not exactly perfect pyramids. I kind of pushed between the two of them to keep them separated, because again, these are 18s, those are 22s, and we want to make sure they kept separated. But that's a long pile of wood there. It doesn't look very tall, very spectacular, but given that was only 2.5 hours of runtime, that's pretty good. You'll notice that some of these chunks of wood need busted up a little bit. We cut these to 18-inch length because that's all my fireplace insert can handle. And because it's an insert, it doesn't have much of a capacity. The overall capacity is pretty small, so a lot of these big chunks I'll have to bust down again. But I'm okay with that. That processor is it's able to get them into manageable pieces where, those were some very large rounds. It was some very large logs. And that firewood processor, just the fact that the saw on it is so much faster than any of our chainsaws. I mean, it can cut the logs down so much faster, let alone the splitter running so much faster. Just overall, it's a fast way to bust down those big logs. So if we got to resplit a few here and there, I'm okay with that. They're manageable pieces. It's not like you're working with a whole round now. Walk around back here to kind of give you an idea of the size of this pile. But that is a lot of wood for 4 hours runtime and 2.5 hours runtime. don't know if I showed the pond earlier. This was the reason for all those trees being down. I've just come down here to feed the fish. Hope it's showing up how many gazillions of minnows are in here. Well, it's the end of the day and you can see the machine is gone. They pulled it out of here a couple hours ago. We turned that last pile of logs into sawdust and firewood. I parked my golf cart over there to try to give you some perspective, and I still don't think it's coming across the camera how big of a pile of firewood that is. I mean, that's a small mountain of firewood. So that represents 5 hours of run time. Again, that pile was 4 hours. That pile down there was 2.5 hours. So we got about 11.5 hours run time on that machine. We took quite a few breaks, especially today. It was hot. I think it was 88 or 90 degrees today, humid, so we were taking a lot of water breaks. So we probably could have got done a little bit sooner, but you know, that's that. The project turned out real good. So, you know, essentially all this firewood came about as a sort of a secondary to building the pond. Dad wanted that big pond built, and again, it's over an acre, and it was densely wooded little valley there. So we ended up with, I think there was something like 100 trees that were lined up out here in this field, and those were just the larger trees. I mean, those were probably every one of them the trunk was as big as my waist or more, because all the little stuff, the excavators burned up as they were building the pond. You know, all the little brush and smaller trees, they all got burned up. So this was all the big stuff, and we kind of didn't know what in the world we were going to do. There was just so much of it, and so they were all lined up out here, taking up Dad's whole pasture just about this summer. And we started cutting on them. It was like, man, this is going to take forever to do by hand. And started asking around, and sure enough, a couple of local guys that I know had that firewood processor, and they do it for sort of a part of their business. So they're an excavator, they sell wood boilers, and they do this firewood processing. So it worked out great. So we're real happy with how it all turned out. The roots, we're taking the roots, and he's got a pile of them there that he's been cleaning on. You can see the pile of dirt next to him. We've been knocking as much dirt off of these roots as possible, just to lighten up the stumps. And then we're taking the stumps and loading them in my brother-in-law's dump trailer. And they have a camp down on the river, and they had some really bad erosion this winter and spring, and the river washed a big chunk of their sort of their camp away. So now they've got a big, you know, kind of a sheer cliff, and so he's taking the stumps down and he's rolling them off the side of that cliff to try to help slow down the erosion. So we're putting the stumps to really good use, actually, where we were planning on just digging a big hole and burying all the stumps. He's actually able to use them as erosion control, so that's great. So he's getting a lot of use out of his new dump trailer. So we put the stumps to great use. Dad got a big, beautiful pond out of this deal, and we got a bunch of firewood as sort of a byproduct. So he's got his pasture. Well, he'll have his pasture back as soon as we get done with this little cleanup, but that shouldn't take more than a couple more weeks, and we'll have his pasture all cleaned up, have a big, beautiful pond, and I think everybody will be happy. So I hope I helped you with this, guys. If you kind of got yourself in over your head with a whole bunch of trees and you don't know what to do with them, ask around. There's probably a firewood processor in your area. So I was surprised that there was one right down the road here, and heck, I had the one boy's number in my phone. I knew these guys, so I didn't know they had a processor. So that was, you know, ask around. You'd probably be surprised like I was if you're looking for one. So I hope I helped you with this one. If I did, click that thumbs up button. You want to see more videos like this, click the subscribe button. And until the next video, guys, keep on tinkering.